called Ray Barton a dreamer. It was 1988, and he was preparing the annual meeting of Great Clips franchises. The 6-year-old company had 150 salons. He was about to announce a goal of reaching 3,000 salons. My wife thought I was nuts, he recalls. So did all of my friends. They called me the Hair Baron. As Barton saw it, national chains, with economies of scale, were destined to rule the hair care business, supplanting independent operators. He had worked at Century 21 and seen franchising work in residential real estate. He'd seen it work for chains of restaurants and hotels. He was sure it would work in hair care. Why, with enough locations, you could conduct collaborative marketing campaigns, save money by buying equipment and merchandise in bulk. You could aggregate research needed to select new sites and provide the newest stores with instant name recognition. You could establish training centers to serve stylists and managers from dozens of stores at one time. With franchising, he said, you could harness the talent and capital from lots of people and build something that none of them could build on their own. Great Clips didn't grow quite as fast as he hoped, but it was still faster than anyone else expected. From 4 stores in 1983 to almost 400 in 1993, and then a sprint to 1,000 in the next 4 years, followed by the opening of store number 2,500 last year in Pennsylvania. Ray Barton, whose insights into the power of franchising made Great Clips the biggest single hair care brand in the world, a company that now has $700 million in system-wide revenue and 2,530 franchise stores in 34 states in Western Canada. He expected to reach his goal of 3,000 stores sometime next year. And he still has big dreams. He believes that because half of the 165,000 salons operating in the U.S. are still independent and operating without economies of scale, there are ample new markets for Great Clips to enter. He believes that Great Clips could ultimately have as many as 12,000 salons and system-wide sales of nearly $3 billion. There's still a lot of opportunity, he says. This is an exciting time. Back in the 1920s, most eggs were hatched on family farms, and the process was subject to the whims of nature. E.M. Helgesson, Don Helgesson's father, improved on that process. His incubators at the Jack Frost hatchery allowed for the controlled hatching of vast numbers of eggs, and he sold the chicks to poultry farmers by mail order. After graduating from Macalester College and attending the University of Minnesota, Don Helgesson was ready to go to work, and his father was ready to get out of the hatchery business. Don and his brother Jerry bought the company and began to expand it, building a laying house and breeding broilers. In 1955, Jack Frost entered into a joint venture agreement with Armour and began to produce fresh, tray-packed chicken. Because long-distance transportation took a toll on quality, Minnesota-grown chicken was an improvement on chicken shipped from the chicken-growing states along the eastern seaboard. To develop a steady supply of chickens, Don developed lasting relationships with family farmers who raised broilers on contract. We took them on as partners, he said. They remain partners. Today, the company has long-term contracts with 250 growers in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and many of them are third generation. In 1978, the company leapt ahead of competitors by applying the Golden Plump brand name to its chickens, differentiating them from unbranded grocery store chickens. The company reinforced the brand with clever television ads showing cartoon chickens in helmets parachuting from airplanes. Additional advances came when the company bought the Armour processing plant in Cold Spring and created a total vertically integrated poultry operation. And then again, when it began to export its products. Today, Golden Plump is a $200 million integrated breeder, feeder, processor, and marketer of chickens. The company has 1,500 employees, 3 production plants, and 2 hatcheries. Don Helgesson, the president and chairman of the board, has meanwhile developed additional interests, among them banking. He served for 6 years as director of the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, and under his direction, the Liberty Savings Bank of St. Cloud has grown to $136 million in assets, acquired a national charter, and grown into Greater Minnesota's largest residential mortgage originator. But most of all, Helgesson says he's proud of the culture of concern created at Golden Plump for our farmer partners and our employees and for the community. Don Cotulla is an Iron Range-bred former bulldozer salesman. He responded to rising energy costs in the early 1980s by selling parts for log splitters to owners of homes with wood-burning stoves. That enterprise led to the sale of tarps, tools, and other equipment, and to the creation of Northern Tool and Equipment, a $700 million enterprise with 62 stores and robust catalog and internet sales. As a youngster, Don worked for his father, whose scrapyard contained old train parts and mining equipment. As a teenager, he started his own business refurbishing and selling hydraulics components to loggers. After earning a degree in finance in Duluth, he worked for Montgomery Ward's, Northwest Airlines, and then Ziegler, which laid him off in 1980. He immediately dusted off his knowledge of hydraulics and began to sell cylinders and valves for log splitters, along with a how-to manual from his garage. Northern Hydraulics was born. Cotulla added other products, including tarps, tools, air compressors, and snowplow parts. In 1981, he opened his first store and did $1 million in business. A year later, a friend in Charlotte opened a Northern Hydraulics store in Charlotte, the first of 37 stores throughout the South. In 1991, Cotulla launched a manufacturing business, North Star, which builds its own products, including rolling gasoline tanks with extra-large wheels. Cotulla adopted the Northern Tool and Equipment in 1998. Although he continues to add 6 to 8 stores a year, he also mails out 70 million catalogs every year and does a brisk business online. In the stores, he says, you want a sawdust on the floor feeling, so a guy can come in with his boots on. He might have fed his cows an hour ago or just mowed 14 lawns, but he can still come in there and feel at home. His sales are international. He uses barcoding and computer-advanced inventory control. The internet is a huge sales venue. Those are tools. But the key to Northern Tool's success, he says, is this. We try to stay focused on our type of customer instead of trying to please everybody. William S. Marvin, better known as Bill, was 5 years old in 1912 when his father founded the Marvin Lumber and Cedar Company of Warroad, Minnesota. He was 22 in 1939 when he joined the company as employee number 8. That was the year the company started to build customized frames for windows and doors to keep employees busy during the slow winter season in Warroad. It was also the year that Bill Marvin began to develop his ever-solid 68-year reputation for single-minded devotion to the 95-year-old company and its employees. Bill Marvin served as president and chairman of Marvin Windows and Doors from 1960 through 2001, and as CEO from 1986 to 2000. Under his direction, the company has grown to 5,500 employees and an estimated $600 million in annual revenue, while becoming widely known for product quality and reliability. After World War II, Bill Marvin pushed the company to expand into producing complete windows and doors to accommodate post-war demand for new housing. In 1961, a fire destroyed the Marvin factory, and the company was offered a fully operational window plant in Denver. It would have been easy for the Marvins to move, but it would have devastated the Warroad community. So the plant was rebuilt, bigger than before. The current Warroad facility comprises 2 million square feet, or about twice as much space as the IDS Center in Minneapolis. Under Bill Marvin's guidance, the company focuses on the capability that sets it apart in the market. Product customization of what Marvin calls the philosophy of making a window once it's ordered rather than maintaining an inventory. The goal is to meet each customer's unique design and performance specifications. It's an idea that's been widely adapted within the industry, but it was introduced by Marvin decades ago. Every holiday season, Marvin dispenses well-publicized holiday bonuses, averaging about $4,500 last year. Bill Marvin says that the people of Warroad gave rise to his company's success, and they deserve to share in it. In business, he says, the most important things are to be profitable, to help your customers be profitable, and to treat your employees well. If your employees are unhappy, he says, you have no reason to be in business. When M.A. Mort Mortensen Jr. became president of his father's construction company in 1969, it had just 15 non-trade employees. Today, the M.A. Mortensen Company has 2,500 employees, offices in 6 states, an annual revenue of $1.4 billion. They build skyscrapers, airports, sports arenas, schools, and manufacturing plants. They've created landmark properties, changing the skylines of major cities forever. And forever is how long Mort Mortensen says he plans to be part of his company. He started at age 15 toting bricks and mortar to bricklayers. After earning a degree in civil engineering and serving 2 years in the Navy, he became a Mortensen Company project manager, overseeing an expansion of the Richfield Methodist Church, a job that required him to wake up at midnight every night to drive to the site to fill heaters with fuel oil. The projects got bigger and his responsibilities increased. In the mid-'70s, with Mort firmly in charge, M.A. Mortensen took on its first design-build project, the United Children's Hospital in St. Paul, and the company became large enough to justify organizing it into 3 divisions. They seemed suddenly ready for anything. The company built the University of Wisconsin Medical Center in Madison, the Lutheran Brotherhood headquarters in Minneapolis, and wastewater treatment plants throughout the country. In the 1980s, it built the new Norwest Center in Minneapolis, the Carlson Center in Minnetonka, the Tripler Army Medical Center in Honolulu, and the massive Gem State hydroelectric plant in Idaho. Mortensen has since built the Xcel Energy Center in St. Paul, the Walt Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, and Coors Field in Denver, and 8 facilities within the Denver airport. It'll soon build the TCF Stadium at the University of Minnesota, and that's not nearly all. Mortensen board member Tom McCune says that whenever there has been a problem on a job, Mort Mortensen has insisted that it be made right regardless of who's at fault. I always wanted to do bigger projects, Mortensen says, but I've always said that it's not how big we are that counts, but how good we are at what we do. There's a Theodore Roosevelt quote that supports his philosophy: the best thing you can do is the right thing.